Welcome to Diplomatic Channel. I am Amarachi Ubadi. This past week, Nigeria played host to two world leaders, the British Prime Minister Theresa May and the German Chancellor Angela Merkel. The two purely coincidental visits came with economic and trade missions in mind, each with her own team discussing areas of cooperation between Nigeria and the two countries. We'll be delving into the importance of the two visits in a while, but first, a quick check on other discussions in diplomatic circles. China is hosting the 7th summit of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation this week, and President Xi Jinping has personally been welcoming African presidents and heads of state to Beijing. The leaders all had a pre-conference meeting with the Chinese president on Sunday ahead of the summit, which begins on the 3rd. The Forum for Africa-China Cooperation, FOCAC, is a meeting between the two partners and is largely premised on ways to increase diplomatic, economic and bilateral ties. This year's edition is themed China and Africa towards an even stronger community with a shared future through win-win cooperation. The summit is seen largely as a key diplomatic event hosted by China this year and attended by the largest number of foreign leaders to date. Britain's former Prime Minister Gordon Brown has called on the Labour Party to change its policy and end anti-Semitism within the party immediately. During a meeting of Jewish Labour MPs in London, Mr. Brown said it was not just a procedural issue, but about the soul of the party. The Labour Party's ruling National Executive Committee will decide on Tuesday whether to adopt the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism in full, with all its examples.
If we cannot, as a movement, stand up with one voice and say we will show solidarity with the Jewish community facing these attacks, facing these intimidations, facing this racism, facing this discrimination, then we are not the Labour Party that we aspire to be. And so I say to this, this is not simply about changing a policy. It's not just about a procedure. It's about who we are. It's about what we stand for. It's about what makes us tick. It's about the soul of the Labour Party.
Finally, South Korea says it has named 5 special envoys led by the head of the Presidential National Security Office, who will be dispatched to North Korea on September 5th to discuss the timing of a summit between the two countries' leaders expected to take place later this month. Top security advisor for South Korean President Chung Il-yong will lead the delegation, which includes Soo Hoon, Chief of the National Intelligence Service, Vice Unification Minister Chung Hae-sung, Kim Sang-yom from Nice, and Yeon Kun-young, Presidential Secretary for State Affairs. The same officials went to Pyongyang using a direct route across the inter-Korean western border and are scheduled to return on the same day. Welcome back. Let's begin with the British Prime Minister, who embarked on a 3-nation Africa tour, beginning in South Africa. Before her meeting with President Cyril Ramaphosa, she stated clearly what her mission was and her hopes for the continent. She wants Britain to become the biggest investor in Africa out of the countries in the group of 7 nations, overtaking the United States by using the aid budget to help British private sector companies invest on the continent.
So I want to put our development budget and expertise at the centre of our partnership as part of an ambitious new approach, and use this to support the private sector to take root and grow. And I can today announce a new ambition. By 2022, I want the UK to be the G7's #1 investor in Africa, with Britain's private sector companies taking the lead in investing the billions that will see African economies growing by trillions. We have the tools to do so. That is why I want to create a new partnership between the UK and our friends in Africa, one built around our shared prosperity and shared security. As Prime Minister of a trading nation whose success depends on global markets, I want to see strong African economies that British businesses can do business with in a free and fair fashion, whether through creating new customers for British exporters or opportunities for British investors. Our integrated global economy means healthy African economies are good news for British people as well as for African people. That's why I'm delighted that we will today confirm plans to carry over the European Union's Economic Partnership Agreement with the Southern African Customs Union and Mozambique, once the EU's deal no longer applies to the UK.
She attended a business forum in Cape Town as Britain is South Africa's 6th largest trading partner.
Africa and the UK. So this is an opportunity.
And had some time to dance with students at a Cape Town school.
Actually, this is not just about changing behaviour and stopping the use of plastic. It's about a more sensible use and making use of recyclable plastics. And I've been hugely impressed by what I've seen today from each of the Scout troops here and the differences that you have been making. And we can make that difference. And it's why I'm so pleased that we've been working with UN Environment and with the World Association of Girl Guides and Scouts to introduce and to launch the new Plastic Challenge badge, which will be first awarded here in Kenya. And then it will be rolled out across African countries as part of the Clean Ocean Alliance.
At bright and early Wednesday morning, Mrs. May was already in Nigeria on the second leg of her Africa tour, meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari.
Trafficking of persons and problem of trafficking and climate change, the effect on climate change on Lake Chad.
Then she came to Lagos, where she visited the Salvation Army headquarters, meeting with officials and community leaders.
Hello. Is the Program Secretary for Education, Salvation Army, and we have one of the community leaders.
Oh, this is hugely important. We are operating a program, as we've told you, that combats the issues of human trafficking in Nigeria, and we know that there is a lot of impact on Britain with Nigerians who have been trafficked there. And we've developed this partnership where the Home Office of the British government is actually providing the funds that support the program that we are operating. And so for the British Prime Minister to be with us today really does signal the strength of the partnership that we have and the commitment we have of addressing these issues that are facing our country of Nigeria. And it's just a huge signal, and we're glad she's here, and we're just very grateful to the Home Office for providing the funds that we are using here in Nigeria. Yes, and we are determined. We are determined. It is our desire to really fight and work hard to make a difference for our citizens of Nigeria.
Then she held a private meeting with victims of human trafficking. A brief stopover at the FMDQ OTC Securities in Victoria Island is where she interacted with students learning the stock market.
You're going to get the best picture over there. Okay? Yeah.
And Nigeria's business leaders. She also met with them. Now, in her exclusive interview with Diplomatic Channel, she spoke on 3 important areas of bilateral interests: trade, security, and migration.
I'm here because of the importance of the links between the UK and Nigeria. Obviously, we've got long-standing historical links between our two countries, but more than that, for the future, there are real opportunities for us to enhance our trading relationship, our commercial ties. Obviously, we work together on security issues as well. And I've brought a wide-ranging business delegation with me. They've been talking to people here in Nigeria about how we can encourage trade between our two countries that will be good for both countries, create jobs here in Nigeria, see British companies investing in Nigeria. That'll be good for people here in Nigeria. That we have been working with the Nigerian government on this area. What we've done today is signed a security and defence partnership that means that we will be working together more in the future. But these issues around groups like Boko Haram, these are difficult issues, but they are a challenge to all of us and they affect all of us. And that's why it's important that we in the UK are working with the Nigerian government and stepping up our work with them on that shared security threat that we both face. The question of illegal migration from parts of Africa, often through Libya, up into the Mediterranean, people being lured by people smugglers who are making a traffic in human misery because these are dangerous journeys that people are undertaking. What I've done today is looked at a particular aspect of this trafficking in people, the human trafficking that sees sadly too many young women from here in Nigeria being lured into Europe with promises of jobs that never materialise, finding themselves being exploited, perhaps into sexual exploitation or labour exploitation. And I met a couple of young girls today, young women today, who'd been through that experience, who are now back here in Nigeria and who are being supported by the Salvation Army, who we help to provide funds to, and we're increasing the funding we're making available for dealing with this issue of human trafficking.
The final leg of her Africa tour was in Kenya, making history as the first visit by a British Prime Minister to the country since Margaret Thatcher in 1988. The Prime Minister said Britain is committed to continuing free trade with Kenya after it leaves the European Union.
This is a partnership for opportunity, but it's also a partnership for our shared security and stability. And today we discuss the work we're doing together to make both our countries and the world more secure. Already, British terrorists and child abusers are in UK jails because of our cooperation. This afternoon, we have signed a new compact that will see us expand our joint work on security even further.
I don't believe Brexit is going to dent our ability to further strengthen and deepen both trade and investment between our two countries. And again, as I said in my statement, working together under the umbrella of the Commonwealth to see how we can even utilize that organization that pulls together people of shared values, shared systems, to see again how we could take advantage of that to improve trade, fair trade, across the Commonwealth countries. So I don't see Brexit meaning anything detrimental towards the strong trade ties that we already have, and I've said that we are seeking to actually boost that going forward.
Two agreements were signed in Kenya on Thursday, one to enhance military cooperation, the other for Britain to return assets and proceeds of corruption to Kenya. Coming up after the break is the visit of the German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Stay with us.